Alrighty guys, we are in the garage right now with the Husky. It is race day tomorrow. I know, we have about 40 minutes on the bike since we've got it. We got like literally no miles on it, but I was like, you know what? It's time to race it. It's time to go out there. We're gonna try to capture our first W at a sprint enduro, but we kind of have a problem with the new bike. My filmer, she was hiding. She was like, I'm gonna film you, but guess what? We brought her back. She's alive. So come around here real quick. So the problem we have is to ride in the California desert, we need a spark arrestor. And for some reason, Husky, an enduro model bike, does not come with a spark arrestor. So that makes no sense. So we had to run down to AEO Power Sports, where we just got back from, and we picked up a brand new FMF 2.1 turbine core. Definitely costs absolute pretty penny to pick this thing up. I know there's other options. I know there's like spark arrestor tips, but they didn't have that around here, so this was literally my only option. The good news is, it looks freaking sick. It'll probably make the bike run even better, so we have to put this on to even be able to race tomorrow, so kind of sucks that it doesn't come with the bike, but gotta do what you gotta do. And goodbye. Ooh, Billy. That looks good on there, I will say that. Just had to reuse the rubber grommet down there, which was actually on the pipe pretty well. So that was the only kind of complicated part. 2 screws on there, and that was it. We got her installed, and she looks good. I mean, besides that, she's pretty dialed to go. Just had to put the spark arrestor on, and I will say it does look good. Maybe I'll start it up real quick and see if I even notice a difference in the sound. I probably should have started up before. I've only rode the thing one time, so I don't even know if I remembered what the stock one sounded like, but we'll see. All right. Yeah, I really don't know. Good to me. Guess we'll find out tomorrow. Boys and girls, it is race day. Look at the turnout we have out here for the first round of the sprint enduro. It's beautiful weather, tad bit windy, which is adding some wind chill. But that coronavirus, my friends, ain't holding nobody back. That's for dang sure, but oh boy. It's gonna be interesting on a bike with about 30 minutes on it. This is gonna be a ride. Time to start this right.
Nice new boots, dude.
Oh, thanks, man.
You're gonna tear them up in about 5 seconds.
New boot goofing.
Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Go.
Alrighty guys, what is going on? This is the round 1 of the 2020 Sprint Enduro Series. You can say I got the bike just in time to be able to compete in this. I am entering or I guess I've already entered it. I entered the 250B class on the brand new 2020 TE 250i. Pretty excited to honestly come out here and ride this bike. I mean, I did a lot to be able to make sure I was able to make it out here. We got the bike. We had to go super last minute, which you guys saw, to buy a spark arrestor. You already see me bushwhacking. I'm like watching this while I'm recording to like see what's going on. I'm bushwhacking. I'm off the trail. Typical Dana, typical VroomVroomDana, just weed whacking throughout the desert. It was weird getting used to the bike in a race. It's something I've never done before. I mean, before this video, I posted my first ride on the bike where I put about, I think it was like 35-40 minutes on the bike in just a non-race format trails, just cruising by myself out in the hills to kind of get a feel for the bike, and just throwing myself into the fire into a sprint enduro race. In hindsight, probably not the smartest or safest idea I've ever had, but I think it was a great first test for the bike. I mean, it honestly told me so much about the bike from just this one race, and I'll kind of talk about it a little bit later on about some of the problems I had with the bike, some of the things I loved about the bike. But this video is just a whirlwind of emotions. I mean, you guys are gonna see problems I had. Almost had to literally back out of the race 20 minutes in. I'm not even, you guys will see why in a little bit, but it was gnarly, man. So many little problems here and there. Nothing too crazy, but definitely some pretty big problems. So I'm gonna let it play a little bit. I hope the wind noise doesn't completely kill it. We had 30-mile-per-hour winds today at this race, so although the weather looks beautiful on camera, it was windy and it got a little chilly out there. So I'll let some audio pick this back up. So a little explanation of what's going on real quick before I deep dive into the bike and what I'm thinking throughout the race. This is a sprint enduro format. Basically, what you're watching right now is the bronze loop. There's a bronze loop, silver loop, and a gold loop. They're all supposed to progressively get a little bit more difficult throughout the loops. Like, for example, only A, B, and pro riders were able to do the gold loop, while novice riders, beginner riders, only had to do the bronze and silver loop. So you had, for me at least, 3 different loops that I had to do twice each. So there's a total of 6 tests. So the bronze loop I would do, the silver loop, the gold loop, and then I would take a break between the tests, and then I would go back out probably about 15-20 minutes later and do the 3 tests again. Each one was roughly about 7 miles. I think one of them might have been 8 miles, but each one totaled averagely about 7-8 miles, totaling for about a distance just above 40 miles when all 6 tests were complete. So that way you kind of know what you're watching right now. And right now, obviously, we started our first test on the bronze loop, and you guys could see the absolute beautiful chocolate dirt. I mean, it's amazing. You rarely see dirt this primo in the desert. Usually it's a dust bowl. Obviously, you can't water the desert, so conditions like this are always just absolutely epic to ride. The only downfall was the blistering wind, but then again, I mean, take your pick. Would you rather have the wind or would you rather have the dust? I honestly think I'd rather have the wind. you guys have it. That is coming to the end. Boom, right there. We are done with the first test, and this basically leads us into test 2. We're going to start again. We're going to get time from the start right there, and then go out onto the second test. So right here, you have a chance to take a little bit of a break, take a breather, drink some water, and then line up for the second test. Thing still recording or no?
It looks like it, yeah.
Got your face on there now.
All right. Hey, I'm Tom.
Yeah, right. Hey! Alright, now we head out on our second test, aka the Silver Loop. Bike's feeling pretty good. The biggest thing I noticed so far is the suspension. This was something I was actually worried about going into the race, because just play riding in the hills for 40 minutes and just literally wheeling the bike out of the dealership and hitting the front brake, I felt like the suspension was too soft. I felt like it dived in a little bit too much and needed to be stiffened up, and that was a big thing I actually really noticed on the first test. And now going into the second test and going through the second test, which you'll later see, it gets a little bit more choppy. There's some more high speeds on the second test than the first test, and I felt like there was a restraint on me from going faster through the desert because of the suspension. What I mean by that is, if I had my YZ450 out here, or even an equivalent 250, say my old YZ250 that had the suspension set up for my weight and my personal preferences, I felt like I would have completed the test way faster. I felt like I would have been faster through the fast sections, just because I felt the back end was getting all wishy-washy on me. The front end was getting a little shaky, which is also definitely due to the fact that I haven't ran or haven't been without my steering dampener in the desert for a very long time. So the fact that I had no steering stabilizer definitely made the front end feel shaky, and that combined with the suspension that wasn't really directly tuned for me, I mean, it was just literally fresh out of the box, I feel it like actually really held me back in some of these sections, which was disappointing. But going into the race, I mean, it is what I expected. I really didn't expect the suspension to do any better than what it did, so I'm not disappointed in that fact. I'm just disappointed in the fact that I knew I could have done a lot better, just if the suspension was done up right. But it's all good. Still had an absolutely sweet time. You guys will see what happens later in this test. That is definitely no bueno, with exclamation point at the end of that one. So I'm gonna let this play through so you guys can see some of the second tests instead of me just babbling my mouth. Alright, guys, so we're coming up to the end of the Silver Loop, aka Test 2. It was an okay test. I mean, it was kind of boring in my opinion. There wasn't a lot going on. I thought going in that each test was progressively going to get a little bit harder, and for some reason this test was easier than the first test. I felt like it was almost identical to the first one. There was just, it felt like the same trails, it felt like the same exact thing, and I kind of expected a little bit more from it. Still a pretty fun one. I mean, can't complain too much. I mean, like I said earlier, the conditions are pretty much primo besides the wind. I'm riding my new bike. Can't be too mad, but I don't know. Overall, a little bit disappointing of a second test, and what even makes it more disappointing is this.
What's happened? Oh yeah. That sucks.
Date. Flat tire. Already. Husky, improve the wheels you put on your bikes. Not the wheels, the tire. Only 2 tests in out of 6 and we have a flat. But some random guy is coming in clutch for us. Thanks, dude. You're the real MVP.
Oh, Billy, what a way to get your first race going. Got a front flat. Didn't have any supplies because I literally got the bike a week ago and have nothing for it. The front tire's just a little too soft for pounding rocks, I guess. Luckily, my buddy Maverick knew somebody out here that rides a Husky and had a full front wheel. So honestly, that dude, thank you so much if you ever see this video, because without you, my day would be over already. So I appreciate the heck out of you. Woo! I'm deleting all this. I'm just kidding.
5 seconds.
All right.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Alrighty, guys, so here we go. We are jumping into the last test, or test 3, before we take a break and then do tests 1, 2, and 3 again. I might include a little bit after this. There's really no point to include those tests again because they're literally exactly the same. But this is the 3rd test, the Gold Loop. Quick backstory, man. My tire went flat, got a flat tire. Literally, I think I did about 14 miles of the race going into test 3. I felt like the front end was a little heavy towards the end, like literally right towards the end, so I pretty much rode the entire second test without a flat front tire. If it did happen at that test, it was literally probably within the last quarter mile or so, because when I ended up pulling away, you guys could say I overshot the course right here like a complete noob, but when I started to actually ride back to the truck, I really did notice how flat it was, so I think it literally happened at the end of the test right there, which was a good thing. I mean, at least in the sprint enduro format, you're allowed to take a break in between each test, so I was able to actually go back and find a tire. Luckily, my buddy Maverick out there talked to some people for me. This guy, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, but you are freaking awesome. He had a full front tire setup with like a bib in it. It had a tire. It was a pretty worn tire, but dude, it did not matter. It was so much better than a flat tire. He let me borrow it for the whole race. Literally didn't know the guy, and he was like, yeah man, here you go, just give it to me when you're done. So that was awesome, man. I mean, literally my day would have been over if it wasn't for Maverick and the wonderful citizen, aka desert racer, that helped me out. So that was awesome. I was able to finish this test, and I was able to finish the other 3 tests. Just the front tire, it was just, I don't know. I talk about it later on. You guys will see. I'm not going to give it all away right now, what I think the problem was. But yeah, like I said, we're going into the Gold Loop right now, and this is supposed to be the most technical loop, or the most technical test out of all the tests so far. So I'll let this play on, man. There's pretty interesting stuff happening in this test. So at this point, I was honestly just pumped to be out riding the bike more since I thought my day was going to be over driving. Literally, I was up at 5 a.m. in the morning, had to drive 3 hours to get out here, and I thought I rode for about, I don't even know, 20-25 minutes and my day was over. So the fact that I'm still racing right now is a huge bonus. I mean, I'm stoked. The only problem is, which honestly, it's not really a problem because it allowed me to ride the rest of this loop. I actually talked to the guy for about 20 minutes after the entire race was over, and it was a worn out bib up front, so it was very, very soft, and it felt very, very dead up front. So I was really struggling with this. The front end just felt off. It felt dead. It allowed more head shake in the bars due to the fact that that mousse was a little bit dead. So that adding to the suspension being a little bit too soft, what I was talking about earlier, the fact that I don't have a steering dampener, it just added fuel to the fire for the steering problems for me. But then again, I mean, it's really not something I could be too upset about. I mean, considering that I wouldn't even be on the course right now. But I definitely rode a little bit slower. I would say probably this test, and then when I went back and did the first and second test again, I felt like my times were a little bit slower. As of right now, when I'm recording this video, the results are actually not posted yet, so I'm unable to actually check where I finished or lap time. So maybe that's not the case, but being on the bike, I definitely did feel a little slower with the dead moose up front. But then again, like I said, can't complain too much. Just pumped to be out here, pumped to be riding the new bike. I felt like this was the perfect torture test for the bike. You guys can see me making mistakes up hills. I'm all over the place, man. I am a freaking wild child out on the course right now. But I'll let this thing pick up so you guys could see some more of the third test. Alright, so that was the bronze, silver, and gold loop from the Sprint Enduro. We're coming up to the end right here of the gold loop, and that would complete my first 3 tests. I would take about a 30-minute break. It was probably more around 20-minute break. You can take as long as you want. I just wanted to get back out there. I had the arms pumping. I was feeling good. I didn't want to take too long of a break and allow my brittle, sore bones and muscles start noticing that they're sore. But I'm going to cut over to a clip real quick and show you guys a little bit of some other spots of the course that I was having, I guess, some problems, you could say. So this is the start of the 4th test, aka the bronze loop that we've already did. Went out there, and this is before I knew that there was I thought there was a moose up front, but I wasn't 100% sure. I had to stop right away, and the fourth test probably caused me to lose, I don't know, 15 to 30 seconds. I thought the front tire was flat again. I was like, are you kidding me? I have 2 front flat tires in a race? I've never had that before. Tire just, it was just feeling really, really dead. I didn't notice it as much in that third test where I first ran the bib, but when I took a little bit of a break and I went back out there, it felt so dead, you guys. It literally just felt like I was riding on a front flat tire, and you guys could see me right there. I pulled over. Again, that was before it popped in my head that it was a bib in there. I thought it was another front flat tube, but it wasn't, just a dead moose. But yeah, that was pretty much how the rest of test 4, 5, and 6 went. Just feeling like I was riding on a flat front tire.
Oh, did you get that one? Oh.
So that's what you call the classic case of grabbing too much front brake going into a sandy corner. That one put me down. Actually ended up doing the splits right there. That one actually kind of hurt. I don't think I'm meant to do the splits. I don't stretch enough to be able to do the splits. But that one kind of threw me off my vibe for probably the next 30 seconds or so. Cannot blame that one on the front bib I'm complaining about the entire race. That one was all on me. Probably, again, me getting used to the bike, went into the corner, man, grabbed front brake, and it just threw me down. I was like, oh, man, that one was embarrassing. The photographer was literally right there at the top of the hill, so you hear me saying, did you get that? Like, did you see me fall? Of course, I had to fall right there and embarrass myself, but embarrassing yourself is always the fun part of riding a dirt bike. But yeah, I'm going to wrap that little section of the race up. I got some more footage afterwards, post-race stuff. But that in a whole right there, my friends, is the round 1 sprint enduro on the brand new Husky. Alrighty guys, just got back home from the sprint enduro. I hope you guys enjoyed that footy. It was windy out. I haven't checked it out in the editing studio yet, but hopefully it wasn't overly windy. There was literally 30-mile-per-hour winds out there today, so it was pretty gnarly. I haven't rode in wind that gnarly in a while. I'm tired, just got the bike unloaded, just got home. But let's do some damage assessment on the Husky, because I got to show you guys a few things. Alrighty guys, here she is after the race. They just pipe plate you numbers, I guess, at every district race or every sprint enduro race. So 354 was our number for the day. Ended up actually going down one time in the rocks, which you guys probably saw. Got a few little scuffs, nothing major. A lot of bushwhacking going on out there. You guys probably saw that too from the video. So got to get some soft scrub out there and clean off the white. The white's going to be so hard to keep clean over time. Got a little dirty over here. Got a couple scuffs on the plastic. Nothing major at all. But what did happen, oh, even the FMF, kept the FMF nice. Didn't fall on that side. I fell on the left side, which was nice. Kept the pipe intact. Pipe looks good. No dents in the pipe. So, I mean, that's good. One thing that did go wrong is the wind picked up and the van door slammed open, breaking off about this big of a piece off of the rear fender, which kind of sucked, but wasn't a huge deal. The bigger deal is when I was riding out there, somehow the light on the bike broke off and disconnected, like the bulb, disconnected the light fixture, and everything. I have no idea how that happened. When the van door came open, it just broke off the little tip right here. It literally comes out to probably like here. But for somehow, when I was riding, no crashes even involved, this housing came off. And I'm like, dude, Husky, you're charging this much for bikes? And the stupid light comes off the first ride? I couldn't believe that. That sucked. So you guys saw the front flat. Shout out to that guy who let me borrow his tire. I think we diagnosed the problem if I could find it. So I was talking to my buddy Ray over at AEO Motorsports, and you guys see that there isn't a little nut on the rim. Like for example, if I go over here to the YZ, on all valve stems, there's a nut on there. Come on, focus, focus. It ain't gonna focus for me. All right, you can kind of see it right here. There's this nut that keeps the tire, or keeps the tube in place during riding, and for some reason I should have checked it, so it's partially my fault, but I guess Husky doesn't put on the nut on the actual rim where the valve is, so you gotta do it yourself, which you pay that much for a bike and you guys can't include a 10-cent nut on the wheel. So that was kind of retarded, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 99% sure that the valve twisted out of the stem right there, so it probably tore the stem, and that's how we got a flat tire, because we inspected the tire and like literally nothing is wrong with it. There's like 30 minutes to an hour on the tire and it looks good. It doesn't look pinched. I don't see any holes or cactus sticking out of it. So I'm pretty sure we just got a pinch flat, or not a pinch flat. We got the tube ripped off right there at the valve stem. Yeah, I mean, that happens, kind of sucks. I mean, it was literally our first time out there on the bike, like in an actual situation. I mean, we haven't even surpassed the break-in period yet, and I decided to ride her like hell out of the Sprint Enduro. It was good. I mean, we had the flat tire, which sucked. The guy ended up giving me another tire that just was like flat as well. It was a really low bib, I guess. Ended up going into it with them, and it was just a worn out bib, so it just made the front end feel dead. When I did thought multiple times that the front tire was flat, I was like, dang, 2 flats on the day. But it did have just a very worn out bib in the front, but 100 times better than a flat tire, obviously. The rear tail light breaking off sucks. I mean, that's not even my fault, so that's kind of upsetting, to be honest. I was planning on taking that off anyhow, but I would have liked one to be taken off that was still intact. I'd rather it not be broken. Luckily, I already ordered a rear fender like previously, so I already have a new rear fender, so I'll be able to fix that. Again, that wasn't a huge deal. It was the fact that the light broke off, which sucked. Bike handled amazingly. Bike engine power, absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just a work of art. What was I gonna say? Oh, suspension, way too soft. It was just, I was getting a little buck cherry out there. Wasn't a fan of the suspension. It was too soft for hammering desert whoops, so it really, really did slow me down out there, and I feel I wasn't able to maintain my speed just because I feel like I didn't have the control out there. So when you're just play riding, the suspension is great, but when it came to actually hammering like some desert terrain, it didn't hold up, man. It pushed through the stroke, and I wasn't a fan of it at all. I missed the steering stabilizer. I did miss that a lot out there in the desert when you're going through the whoops and stuff. I mean, the front end didn't feel as stiff, obviously, with a dampener. But there's a few other things, I'll get into it. There's a few upgrades I definitely want to do to the bike. But if we're talking motor-wise, if we're talking lugging power, if we're talking strictly engine, bike is freaking beautiful. Just need a few little minor tweaks here and there. Feel like the best way to do that was sign up for the race, so I'm stoked I did it. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Deuces, my friends.